I never used to understand when people said lower your gaze because I didn't really get it, right? It's like you look at something, and how can looking at something become a problem for you? You you can be thought, you can fall under the impression that it's about other people. And it is to an extent. It is about other people, but um, there's a point where you have to understand that even if people aren't aware of you, even if people it doesn't affect people. There are reasons related to ourselves where you start to understand why would it be important? Why is it that detrimental? Um, and on many aspects, because now it's too easy to consume, right? It's too easy to watch, to look, to to gaze, pretty much. And why you need to lower your gaze is it comes always down to this thing, but it's and I repeat myself a lot on this, but the mirror effect that we have with life, sorry, is that what we see is a reflection of us, and we're a reflection of what we see, pretty much, right? Um, but you control your side, you control your actions, and so the more you look into life, and the more what you consume, you can look at and enhance, and you can see it grow, and you can see it become more. The more the same thing is happening to you, to your character, to your persona, to who you are, right? And that's the main key here is that when we look at people and we look at things and we gaze and we fantasize or whatever, we're we're actively making out of that less of what they are, right? And that becomes a problem. It becomes a problem because we're depleting ourselves of our imagination, of our, or all the other qualities that we have, just to focus on this one aspect of life, which is destructive, pretty much, because we don't do these things with intentions of bringing more to somebody else's life. We're really just doing this in a sort of selfish manner, right? And if you go down this route, there's a lot of this easily leads to vices and stuff like that. But if you can have a comprehensive approach towards it, if you can go towards this concept, right, the concept of gaze, and be able to have a comprehensive reason as to why not, it is so much easier to quit. It's so much easier to restrain yourself and stop, or at least to now have the understanding and be able to apply it to your life moving forward, right? It always comes down to three steps. It's to understand, right? To gather information. I mean, sorry, to gather information about this subject, like in this video. Then you understand how this all falls together, and so the link between you and the things around you. And then you have to accept it, and that's a key thing. Is that if this makes sense to you, if this is something which you feel um, is of value and would actually help you, um, you know, create a better life, a more comfortable one that is less, full of vices. Well, is to accept it as part of it and grasp it when you have the chance, and then start to apply it. And even if you fail again, and at least you have the route now. You know what direction to go towards. And why is it a problem to make out of things less than what they are, and to have that effect on ourselves? Is that because at the end of the day, all we really have is this idea of self, is this perspective of when we look at the world, we recognize a certain point of view, we recognize a certain essence, which is familiar, and that familiarity comes from ourselves, right? The perspective that you have of the world is the reason that will allow you to move into one direction, and to stick to it. And it's the reason that you'll be able to start movements of your own, so that you'll be able to inspire people, inspire yourself to take actions on goals and dreams that you have. And all those are big deals, right? But if you spend your time um, destroying it, if you spend your time um, making it less of what it is, and having less clarity on the subject of yourself, if you spend your time for reasons that are really selfish, they only serve you, right? Then you find yourself having hurt yourself. You'll end up having created confusion in your own life, and you create these fake scenarios pretty much um, in your head, and at the end you realize that really you're just lying to yourself in this moment. Through screens we watch porn or whatever, and through that what we're really doing is we're lying to ourselves, we're lying to who we are as people. And the issue with that is that what we're playing with really is our perspective of what is real, what is not, and we're sacrificing this authentic perspective that we have for this fake one, for the purpose of having a desire met. I think that's the real issue here, is that that's why they also fall hand in hand, right? A lot of times we'll see men that, or people in general, that struggle with finding a purpose, or finding something which they like to do, or the lack of knowledge of themselves, partaking a lot more in these type of activities rather than the person who has a goal, who has a purpose, who has a vision of life. And those things are not an accident. Those things don't happen because it's just people roll the dice and boom, it just happens. There's a reason, and it comes down to this. This seems like it's a simple enough formula, really, and it doesn't really get more fundamental than this, right? And so maybe this is a better way, right? And maybe it's the idea that we need to replace one thing with another, and instead of going and looking too much at certain things, whether it's in real life or virtually, maybe to replace that with a way that we can use our perspective in a way um, which is constructive to it, that allows it to grow, that allows it to be more, to create more clarity, and that will give you traction in your life rather than slow you down, right? And so that can mean when you find yourself in that place, or you find yourself in a moment where, I don't know, you feel, you know that the situation is building itself to be one of those, like where you would go and watch, I don't know, videos or something. Well, take that time and put it towards something that you will consciously know is about developing your clarity about who you are as a person, and what is it that you believe yourself to be about and life to be about. And maybe write, maybe maybe make plans for the future, and that will be a lot more constructive, right? And this is the other side of the sword, is like, if you're able to do this, if you're able to to have a perspective of your own, if you're able to have an idea of who is it that you want to be, then it doesn't become about you, it becomes bigger than you. And if you can make it bigger than you, then life can change, you can change. But as long as you're stuck on you, and I want this and I want that and blah blah, then it won't change. You'll fall into the same problem. But making it about something bigger than you, um, something which is, for example, this idea of perspective, which you didn't pick, but you gotta let go and understand that it's something which you are given. It's who you are, and when you discover it, it becomes about life. It becomes about bigger than who you are. Um, and then it will serve people too, right? But this ego, this idea which constantly wants to fulfill its own voids, it constantly wants to feed its own desires. That idea of ego is actually the opposite of that. And every day that battle has to happen, and there's a risk every time. There's a risk that you might feel like you're missing out on your desires, but it's always for something else. But that gamble, in a way, if you want to call it that, of you choosing to maintain your perspective, you choosing maintain a certain level of clarity, you're choosing to take certain actions which will benefit that rather than destroy it, that risk at some point pays off. And then and a good rule of thumb is like, okay, well, if I don't feel like my instant gratification and desires right now are met, then there's a high likely chance that I'm on the right path. But when I find myself um, fulfilling those, right, I can typically tell that I'm losing. And this conversation is about videos. It's about consuming corn and whatever, but it's also about on a daily and on a day-to-day basis, just going through life and um, and having gaze towards people and being able to control that on that small moment and to not be overly consumed by it. And the same things will reappear when it comes to um, times when it's harder, times when you're on your own, and times when it's so easy to access. And so, yeah, I hope that this conversation was beneficial to people out there. And thank you for watching. If do you have any questions or comments or stories, you can send them to the email under the video. And I appreciate you for watching. See you.